Start of script. Welcome to the Quiet. Tonight's tales are original, whispered into existence just for you. Let the sound of rain carry you away as we step into the dark. Our first story. The cabin had no mirrors. I noticed that on the second day. Not that I was looking for myself, but the bathroom wall was bare above the sink. The hallway empty where a tall glass should have been. Even the windows seemed to turn opaque after dark, showing only rain and my own vague shape, blurry and uncertain. I asked the owner, an old woman with eyes like whetstones, why there were no mirrors. She said they had broken in a storm long ago. She smiled when she said it. Her teeth were too even. That night the rain came hard. I lay in bed and listened to the attic groan. A sound like bare feet, slow and deliberate, moved across the ceiling directly above me. I held my breath. The footsteps stopped just where my head rested. Something scratched the plaster once. Soft, curious, then nothing. The next morning, I found a small, hand-sized mirror on the kitchen table. It was old, rimmed with tarnished silver. I hadn't seen it before. In the reflection, the kitchen behind me looked perfectly normal, except for the doorway, which was deeper than it should be. A shadow stood there, too tall, too still. I turned around. The doorway was empty, but the rain outside had stopped, and in the sudden silence I could hear breathing that wasn't my own. The gas station on Route 19 was the only light for 30 miles. Rain hammered the metal awning as I pulled up, the hour close to midnight. The attendant stood behind bulletproof glass, his face lit by a single flickering monitor. He didn't blink when I walked in. I grabbed a coffee from the machine. The pot was empty, but it was still hot. I looked at the attendant. He nodded slowly, as if answering a question I hadn't asked. When I returned from the restroom, a woman was standing by my car. She wore a thin coat, completely soaked, her hair plastered to her face. She didn't seem to notice the rain. I called out. She turned. Her eyes were closed, not squeezed shut, but peacefully, completely closed. She said my name. Not a question, a statement. The attendant tapped the glass behind me and shook his head once. I got in the car and drove. For 10 miles, the rain was so heavy I could barely see. And then, suddenly, it wasn't rain at all. It was ash, falling thick and white, coating the road, muffling everything. I never found Route 19 again on any map. It started with a voicemail from my own number. The timestamp was 3:04 a.m., a time I knew I was asleep. The message was just 9 seconds of low static, and underneath it, a voice. My voice, repeating something I couldn't quite make out. I played it for a friend. She said it sounded like counting, backwards. The next night, I left my phone recording while I slept. In the morning, the file was 3 hours long. The first hour was silence except for my breathing. The second hour, the rain against the window. The third hour, something else. A soft tap, from inside the recording. Then another, a rhythm, like knuckles on wood, coming from my phone's speaker itself. And then, clear as anything, my own voice, but from across the room, whispered, "You're not the one sleeping." I moved out that week, but I still get the voicemails. Every few months. The counting is getting closer to 0. She was the 5th tenant in 4 months. The apartment was cheap, and she understood why the moment she unrolled the rug in the living room. Underneath, scratched into the floorboards, was a message: "Don't open the closet after dark." The closet in question was a narrow door in the hallway, painted over in thick, uneven white. The brush strokes looked almost frantic. She laughed it off. New York apartments came with history. That night, she woke to the sound of the closet door creaking open. She sat up, heart hammering. The door was still shut, but the sound had come from somewhere. Her phone, maybe. A video. No. The sound had come from inside her own head. The next evening, she smelled something sweet and old, like dried flowers and dust, drifting from the hallway. She checked the door. Still painted shut. A single strand of long gray hair was caught in the dried paint at the bottom. It hadn't been there before. She didn't open the closet after dark. She didn't have to. Whatever was inside had started to hum. A lullaby. Through the walls. Through her pillow. Every night, the same song, slightly closer to the correct key. I was 11 when my grandmother told me that some houses keep the people who die inside them. She was dying herself, in the room next to mine, her breathing a thin whistle through the cracked door. The rain that night was the worst I'd ever heard. At 2 a.m., the whistle stopped. I lay frozen, waiting for my mother's footsteps, for crying, for anything. Instead, I heard my grandmother's voice, not from her room, from the wall beside my bed. She was humming our song, the one she'd sung to me as a baby. It came through the plaster, muffled but unmistakable. I pressed my hand to the wall. It was warm, too warm, like skin left in the sun. In the morning, she was gone. The house was quiet, but the walls stayed warm for years. Every time it rained, I'd hear her, not as a ghost, as a part of the house itself, singing softly, forever, from inside the beams and brick, keeping me company until I grew old enough to leave. And the day I finally moved away, I pressed my hand to that wall one last time. It was cold. She had let me go. And now, the night settles. The stories have been told. May your sleep be deep and your dreams your own. Good night.